both sides were posing really interesting questions. Hey, if you're going to target our jungle, we're going to target your gold laner. It's a give and take every single time we hit the drafting stage.
And again, NPFL is going to be first pick here. They're going to be banning out that Alpha. And SRG, now they have to consider banning out that Bruno because, quote, Arcadia said there are ways to deal with the Bruno. But again, we've seen time and time again, it doesn't take one hero. It at least takes two.
Well, now SRG is going to be on the red side, so they have that 2-pick swing. This is a good question, though. Coach Arcadia said they have a plan for the Bruno. So that means effectively it's going to create opportunity in the ban phase for the first half for him to be able to take something else out instead. What that may be, I'm curious to see, but Zushin is still walking on the table so far. There goes that Hilda ban out. We saw some great rotations from Cram on that in game number 1.
I mean, so far he's been getting it time and time again. It's bound to get banned. How long has it been, by the way?
Too many times. Too many times. Every series he gets to at least play it at least one time, and most teams are pretty adamant on not letting Hilda go through at all. But now that we see the Jushin, these are the expected bans coming up from the side of SRG. The only adaptation we've seen from NPFL is going to be in that Hilda. We're going to see what the next follow-up ban is supposed to look like. At this point, do they follow the exact same plan that they did in game number 1? You target the jungles first, then start moving towards the opposite side.
Yeah, definitely a lot of questions, and we need some answers. For SRG, that also pose that question, if they don't ban that Bruno out, what do they take out instead? I mean, right now, we've been seeing Diablo, when you can't get it done in the gold lane, you get it done in the XP lane. Also, maybe limiting something from his toolbox could be a wise decision. Speaking of toolboxes, though, the Phoveus ban on the blue side to finalize the first half for NPFL.
Now, the second pick, they have a strategy here. You know that both the Bruno as well as Suyo is going to be a hot pick. Choose either one, or the second strategy is have a throwaway ban so that if NPFL picks up the Bruno per se, they can have the Suyo +1. So that is a strategy. We do have to see if Coach Arcadia and Coach Ozoravecchi wants to take that risk.
I suppose, but at the same time, Cho hasn't been touched, Matilda hasn't been touched, both of which, I would say, even in the previous game, yes, they locked in their supports pretty early on. They showed their hand pretty handedly. No mind tricks there. They're going to get rid of the Matilda this time round. And now first picks, I would only assume that NPFL are considering both of those options, right? It's pick your poison, like you mentioned, but I do think that at least from the side of SRG, now that they have shown off that they can play the Guinevere, it's going to make Curtisi a little bit more hesitant in picking up that far side. We might even see a Lo Yi down the line.
Yeah, so NPFL should be picking up the Bruno here, which now we're going to see if Coach Arcadia indeed has a plan to go up against it. For the side of SRG, though, maybe going in for the Hylos, maybe the Suyo Cho, but I think they need to get one of their side laners comfortable, right? They need to either get Diablo, or not Diablo, they need to either get one of the sides. There goes that Hylos, though.
Suyo Bruno? Oh, this is a Suyo Bruno, right?
I mean, I would expect this to be a Suyo Bruno. However, NPFL has been finding a lot of success in the high loss with or without the Bruno, and I wouldn't be too surprised if they decide to go for like a high loss Bruno, Ling plus Farsa style composition where they can actually push in and out consistently.
Yeah, the Ling is actually quite a good shout there, Gideon, because that is what they used before to shut down the Bruno, but it's innocent though. That's the only caveat here. It's innocent though.
I mean, Detective tried to find this man guilty, couldn't even do that, so I would only imagine that NPFL have a tighter formation to play around it, but as expected, interesting.
They're letting go of that Bruno.
Yeah, but now they add the element of surprise on their side with this Lu Yi, which was banned out in the previous match, and then alongside the powerhouse Joy. Now, there still is some options on the table to stop this Joy from being as effective, right? First of all, the Fredrin is still available for grabs, can definitely stop it in its tracks, and could be a wise pickup. You could also get the Valentina here to technically have the diversion play as well.
I suppose. But even so...
Yeah, I'm lost. You're kidding.
No, they got to, I mean, stick to their guns, right? NPFL, and especially Singapore, as a region, very macro-heavy, and more importantly, if it's not broke, don't fix it, right? They've got the high loss, they can pair it up with the Bruno. That in itself is already very dangerous to deal with. I think that even picking up the Suyo would make a lot of sense as well. Yeah. Oh, play standard. That's a really good standard opening. I'm surprised they got away with this.
Yeah, so I'm really looking at this, and if the Cho doesn't get picked up here, Cho will be banned out a little bit later. Same can be said about Innocent's pick. Because unless they have something very special to go up against Bruno, besides the Granger, besides the Beatrix.
I feel like they're going to go back into Granger. I'm not gonna lie.
Or Moskov, you know. Innocent
fair.
did get that play with the Moskov.
Also true, also true. Honestly, when it comes down to like figuring out what Innocent's pick is going to be, doesn't really matter as long as he has a good time in his lane. He usually is able to pop off later down the line.
Yep,
there we
Granger.
go. That's the Granger, and now we head on into the second phase. I'm expecting take bans coming up from the side of NIP Flash, maybe? Or they could be looking, from the side of SRG, but they could still pivot.
Yeah, there are some roamers available. I mean, the TIG is definitely still on the
Jawhead.
table. Jawhead. We've seen how effective that could be as well with the isolation plays with the lethal injector. Sometimes throwing the wrong teammate.
Yeah. Don't remind me.
Are we gonna go for two here?
No, I feel like if I go on TikTok, there'll be a compilation of it. I already see some of it on Facebook. I don't doubt the TikTokers, but yeah, like I feel like JBL has been using a lot of pickoff heroes. The Jawhead, the Cho, they're betting up the Farsa, so targeting Cortese, but then Cortese's like, hey, Martha's baby.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But now we look behind the IGN, specifically from Hades, who chose his IGN because he loves Greek mythology and always plays the carry role.
Does he mean Hades he's a carry, or like, which one? Which one? Is it the Greek mythology, or like, which one?
He's got to pick one or the other. He's carrying the underworld, apparently.
Oh. Now that's funny.
That is kind of funny.
That's like throwing shade to your team.
It's ironic.
I'm carrying the underworld.
I mean, they are the southernmost state. They used to be the southernmost state. Anyways, coming into the second half of this, we are seeing the glue getting banned out here. So it looks like NMP Flash on blue side have a completely separate take on this.
Just quick one. Cram, CC. One of his best heroes before.
It would be very effective to pull out the CC here as well, especially going up against a Hylos if that is going to be in the XP lane for Diablo, which would be what we saw in the previous game as well. So looking at the draft so far, when it comes to SRG, they've got the element of surprise. You have the Lu Yi, so that is something NIP Flash is going to have to watch out for. But there's also that Joy, and right now I'm not really seeing too much to stop the Joy from rushing into the back line. So maybe as we finalize this draft for the side of NIP Flash, they go for something that can kind of stop it a little bit better in its tracks.
Interesting. They get rid of the Tigreal as expected here. Does that mean that they're... I feel like SRG want to take this Cho away from JPL, which doesn't give him many options after that. With Matilda also gone, I mean, JPL could look to play Guinevere himself, but again, his targets are pretty difficult, and most can actually just walk away with Purify.
Yeah, I agree. Right now, NIP Flash, so far, 3 bans towards the EXP, 1 ban into the jungle. So do they make sure this final ban is going to the EXP? Because there's no way you ban on something like a Guinevere. But no, they ban on the Cho. So they make sure that Humes doesn't get that Cho. And we'll see what else Humes have. Maybe he'll pick up the Gwyn again. Maybe he has something else for the Bruno.
Do we see a Gatot maybe coming through here for the side of SRG? I mean, it's good to be able to get to the back line. It still technically can be flexed because we're not seeing the XP or the roam showcased so far for the side of SRG. I mean, for certain, about like 90% positive we're going to be seeing this Hylos go over to Diablo. But they can still throw another element of surprise in the mix as well. They could still go for sustainability in the mid lane. I mean, technically they could pull out something like a Faramis, but you are going against the Lu Yi, so I guess if you do group up together, it could be a little bit of a problem.
I agree with that. I think, the flex pick in the support roam area is definitely going to be useful. They're going to go straight into the Gwen. I'm trying to think. Historically, I haven't seen Cram ever play the Guinevere. It was especially in his time during MPL MY. It still technically could be the flex, but it doesn't work that well nowadays in the EXP, especially when you're up against these thick boys who generally just don't care and focus purely on pushing the waves.
I prefer CC still.
I agree.
I think we can still see the CC here, though. I mean, it would be a good read up against Diablo in the XP lane. Right now, though, I feel like both sides have a way to disengage and engage, right? You have the Guinevere, can get to the back line with spatial migration. We have yet to see the Mage picked up for NIP Flash. Could they go in for the Eve? Is that something they want, considering there is a Valentina on the other side, or a Lu Yu on the other side?
They pick up the Eve as well as the Edith here. So overall, pretty solid draft here. The only thing is that Eve can get caught, especially by that Joy. Though we have to say that when the real world manipulation is proc, then you have a shield. So maybe you can sustain for a little bit here. SRG, do they pick up the CC or do they have a different pick here? Like something a bit more tanky, like, I don't know, Charizla, Damus.
I was thinking maybe, yeah, Charizla doesn't seem too bad of a shout. I feel like Gatot might just be the way to go to zone control. But then, is there going to be an issue of lack of damage, especially around the earlier sections of the game, right? If you're playing towards Granger side, maybe not so much. But then if you're playing towards the EXP side of things, it's purely for setup and for jungle, right?
Khalid is still walking. I mean, may not be the easiest to pull off against the high-lows, but right now you're just running out of options from the draft from the side of NIP And there we have it. The final pick will be the Gatot to finalize this draft.
Yeah, to more or less counter both the Bruno as well as the Eve. Right now, looking at both drafts, I would say NFP Flash got a pretty good draft on their hands here. Can they execute it well? We're going to throw it over to our casters, Mirko as well as Brigitte. It's your time to shine.
Thank you so much, and I agree. This sounds or feels like a better draft overall coming in from NIP Flash. They have a lot of ways to respond, but then if it boils down to timings again, SRG, they know when to just throw in a single member and to go out when it's very, very dangerous. So they'll have to be very careful on that. I'm looking out for just how surprising the diversion plays will be for Stormy.
Definitely. You know, I mean, Humans was already really surprising in game number 1, and that was without a Lo Yi. Now you have a diversion, you don't know where this Guinevere is going to come from.
Yep.
It could be the flank, could be still from the front, you never know. Maybe you could see a Granger from behind. No, that's a bit too crazy.
You know, I've seen enough crazy when Stormy kept using it alone. Like a solo diversion plays that I don't know if we'll be seeing it once again this time around. Because for the past game, or at least in this series, SRG, they feel a lot more coordinated in terms of the plays that they make. So they might want to work together a lot more in terms of using the diversion plays. But now, reverting back to the usual matchups for now. And of course, to all those out there, don't forget to check the M6 Pass. It's available from November 18 up to December 29. Complete all the active tasks during the event to reach level 75 for free. You get amazing rewards, including the battle emote, the Claude battle emote, the M6 avatar border, and the new special skins alongside Claude's, of course, M6 exclusive skin. So don't forget to check that out. And we're seeing the emblems right now. A lot of damage for Vanix. It seems like they really want to focus on the carry aspect here of the Bruno.
The Master Assassin, this is what we are used to seeing. That's why when I saw Innocent go for the tenacity, you could definitely see just how much respect he had for the damage of NIP Flash in game number 1. But here, onward over to Cram. He's handling himself in the lane so well, and you can see full movement speed for Cram, agility, and the Wilderness Blessing as the choice of emblem. He knows all he needs to do is shove in and then rotate.
Yeah, I mean, the EXP late matchup, right? It's something we've been looking at even since the previous game. Just how confident Cram seems to be playing. Even at times, just sacrificing the waves, rotating all the way down to the bottom lane, which I'm not entirely sure if we'll be seeing this time. But considering that he has invested so much in terms of mobility, I don't think that's too far of a reach. We might see it happen again anytime soon. But for now, of course, we'll be setting our eyes on the first turtle between SRG and NIP Flash. And similar to earlier, they'll be positioning themselves first, but probably a slight adjustment. Diablo has the level 4 this time around, so they're more equipped to engage if ever there is a team fight from SRG.
Good poke over to Yeomans, but Stormy has done the same to Hades. Earth Shatter and the flicker onward. Hades picks up, it's Cortese who actually picks up the kill. Hades will be caught on taunt. Sky's coming in as well. Electrifying beats goes through the revitalize from JPL. Sky's though caught on the bad spot, will just be poked down. It'll be a 1-for-1 Yums for Hades.
But that was an unfortunate casualty for NIP Flash. That was their jungler that they lost.
Yep.
But fortunately for NIP Flash, SRG is not starting the turtle just yet. They reverted back to farming for Sekai's, but even then, I feel they'd be very much confident to take on this objective. He's already 1 level ahead of Hades, if it's just that. But of course, we're not taking away the fact that this is still a Suyo, so when it comes to objectives, they still might want to contest this either way. Still, NIP Flash They're trying to get some information, but SRG, 4 members are already here.
Yep, full control, no revitalize this time around. JPL trying to go for an angle of attack. Lowers pathway, spatial migration. Diablo gets the Earth Shatter, but it's only onto the clone. Cram goes over to AOG. That's a Violet Requiem, still very low. RWM, Skies is caught in it. Will be slain by Hades. And NIP Flash take control over the Turtle. Turtle number 1 over to Hades. Oh, Yums got canceled in the bush. Hades gets a double up top.
And this is similar to what we've seen for game number 1. Hades bouncing back after that first death and getting the better early game up against Sekai's with that kill and that immediate take on the Turtle. NIP Flash are currently in the lead. So this is some interesting developments from them. I mean, they felt like they weren't being as aggressive just yet, but they were just waiting for the right timings. Now SRG, they might want to make use of the element of surprise, as mentioned by our panelists earlier, to be able to catch NIP Flash off guard a lot more often, because earlier it was Diablo who set things up for NIP Flash, and they were just able to buy some time alongside JPL enough to regroup and take that Turtle for themselves.
Yeah, becomes a great start from NIP Flash, despite, obviously SRG getting things done early up against Hades. And Vanix has been farming really well, despite the fact that in this matchup, we've been talking about it, or a lot of analysis also has been dropped down by some coaches in interviews. Granger is a winning matchup, so you would expect the Granger to have more kill threat and maybe SRG to play around it. AOG, they know Cortese doesn't have it. Good Earth Shatter. Oh, dodged away by Skies. Glorious Pathway coming down, and they're going to be caught in the real world manipulation. Hades walking up. Yums just barely surviving. The lethal ignition is not ready. They actually don't have that lethal ignition, so they can't get that kill. SRG barely get away. Oh, Hades.
Okay, wait. Oh no, he spotted Innocent.
The burst. Let's see if it's enough. Oh, dodging away from the Soul Sever, but you cannot dodge the basic attacks. Hades takes the kill. That is 4-1. Third kill from Hades.
And quick rotations from both sides. They'll be able to mirror each other and take the tier 1 turrets from opposite sides of the map. And that was an interesting that was an interesting team fight we've seen from both NIP Flash and SRG. I mean, all 5 members were present during that time. But it just goes to show how crucial these spatial migrations will be for Yums. Once he doesn't get that successful of a spatial migration and he gets to be forced out of the team fight, NIP Flash, they will be a lot more confident to just go for the engagement this time. Oh no, guys!
Oh, getting balled down by Vanix. That's JPL taken down, but they're all very low. Hades gets the Turtle. Violet Requiem over to Diablo. Vanix, oh, last shot almost. That didn't crit. Sky Piercer by for Innocent. That, oh, it's a great yin reaction. Hades shoots the arrow. Diablo, Primal Wrath. Earlier, Innocent threading the needle, almost catching Cortese. Oh, Hades, Soul Sever, but Cram is able to escape. Special migration from Yums, and Cram gets the shutdown.
There was no way to save Hades at that moment, not even the Worldies, since it was also previously used. Diversion play, where are they headed? It seems like they're going to focus right now on the gold lane. Vanix has to be careful. At least he has JPL by his side, so they'll be able to successfully defend this turret. But earlier, we already saw like a glimpse of just how aggressive NIP Flash could really play if you don't get to set things up again. Going back to what we previously mentioned for Yums, they just, right now, for NIP Flash, clearly are focusing on the objectives, focusing on the farm, and they haven't let go of the lead just yet. So at the very least, they're holding on to their team fight potential, but they can't just be overextending a lot, even though they see an opportunity, especially if Stormy has the yin-yang reactions. We've seen a moment where in the team fight was nearly turned around by SRG just because of a single yin-yang reaction too.
And now it's back to equal. 2 turtles for NIP Flash, but the gold lead is non-existent. SRG can very easily just play for late game. They have that Granger, they have the Joy. Though I think NIP Flash are not in the bad spot despite the gold lead not being big here. They have a Bruno. They can always just play front to back, play for the Bruno. We've seen many teams rely on the Bruno. Glorious Pathway. Yums gets away. That's one of the advantages of picking up a Guinevere. You are so slippery.
Yeah, you're not an easy target. And one advantage for SRG is that they are always ahead. They always get to control the brushes. But Sekai's doing a great job in terms of shoving the lanes opposite to the objective right now because the Lord is spawning towards the bottom lane. And they definitely would want to get their hands on this. The game feels quite slow. It's been 8 minutes that we've seen back and forths, but the kills aren't exceeding like 7 kills, and they're just really trying to focus on the objectives. I feel like it's a major team fight that'll really matter for both of these teams, and at least for NIP Flash, they're just really deciding to group up together. But I think that's one advantage, or that's one disadvantage. Well, speaking with group up, wait!
Great Earthshatter, Yums assassinated by Hades. Great engagement from Diablo. There's going to be 2 ultimates used up already. Diversion into the back. Curtizi waiting on it. Skies actually takes it. We ball down. Great taunt over. Vanix caught in the bad spot. Pops into Purify. Now the AOG not connecting the stun over from Hades. Innocent gets Diablo. JPL's very low. Skies trying to go into the team fight. Oh, Vanix cannot get in range. Hades walking up. Innocent very low. Still cutting away. The Rhapsody. Oh! Hades with a shot. Innocent low. Living with a sliver of HP. Lord in the sights of NIP Flash.
The timings didn't feel as synced for SRG. It felt like a reactive response to how NIP Flash set up the team fight, but Hades, he still gets the Lord. That was close though for Yums with a spatial migration.
That was a pixel away from Hades getting picked off. Oh man, they're playing with pixels at this point, man. 264 gold lead, by the way. That was a winning fight for NIP Flash, and the gold lead is still non-existent. SRG are actually farming really well.
Yeah. Right now we're seeing that, at least for the gold laners, they're very close in terms of gold, but it does feel like Innocent hasn't had his hands on the right targets. Like the team fights, they usually have access to the backlines. We've seen it earlier, the diversion play, bringing Sekai's all the way near or next to Curtizi and Vanix even. But then the damage coming in from Vanix is one thing that you really have to take note. Even Sekai's, once he's just all alone, once he's just the recipient of all the damage of the backliners here from NIP Flash, he doesn't get to sustain it as well. Ooh. So now they have the Lord marching towards the bottom lane. What is SRG gonna do? They will be able to defend it somehow. And at least, for them, they have a lot of range, so they can really deal with all this from afar. But Hades!
That's the diversion we were talking about! Hey, the spatial migration was already really surprising in Game 1. Now add a diversion to it. Hades gets caught. Happy birthday, man, by SRG.
And that's how you need to play the Luyi at this point. If you feel that NIP Flash, they've been really confident. They've been just so dominant in terms of positioning themselves and looking for the right timings, then you should be able to do that yourself. But, grab!
Innocent diving. Oh, Sky Piercer. Innocent takes him down. Yums! Gets the spatial migration again. And now Innocent's rolling. The Sky Piercer gamble that he made by buying the item, it's starting to pay off. That is 3 stacks in less than a minute.
A single diversion and just waiting for another opening from that. SRG, they've taken control of the game. Now the lead is in their hands. And it feels like all that NIP Flash has done in the early stages, they don't mind anymore. Now they're gradually able to open all of the remaining outer turrets in the map. And let's check that instant replay presented by Kidia. That was an Avatar of the Guardians that didn't necessarily connect, but Sekai is from the sides, and that immediate burst down onto Curtizi. There was no zone control left for NIP Flash. They were just able to take out all the defenses and force their way into that tier 1 mid lane.
3.4k gold lead. We saw how hard it was for NIP Flash, despite getting 2 turtles, 1 Lord, to establish a gold lead. SRG did it while being behind just a bit, and then it's instantly a 3,000 gold lead. Yeah. The level of capitalization from SRG is on a whole different level here. And for NIP Flash, they're going to be the ones here forced to climb back.
Yeah, I think it's been a recurring theme for like even the first series. The amount of pressure and how clean of an early game you're able to pull off, but then a crucial mistake just allows your opponents, especially with this much of discipline, turn things around. Diablo though gets spotted. Oh, the spatial migration and the electrifying beats onto him, bursts him down. That's -1 for NIP Flash.
Uh-oh, the real world manipulation was misplaced. Cram dives in with the AOG. Diversion. Sky's in the back from the flanks. He might be able to get Vanix. And it's still gunning JPL down. Sky's not able to capitalize fully on that, but It's because SRG want to go for the Lord. There's no reason for them to fight. They've gotten Diablo. That's the main frontliner. And this should be a free Lord over to SRG.
Yeah, I mean, the NIP Flash definitely just wanted to position themselves there. Diablo, that Earth Shatter that did not connect, cost him his life. Selangor Red Giants just went for the kill, and now NIP Flash, they're left to defend. At least they have the Eve, and they have the Bruno, and even the Edith when it comes to wave clear. But SRG, they're not the type to make such crucial mistakes. I mean, I think if there's one thing that they've really tried to adjust, it's also Cram and the way he decides to use his ultimates as the XP laner this time, even on the Gatot Kacha. So they will be a lot more careful, especially in terms of these kinds of sieges. But NIP Flash, they're not that behind, so they could still find a way to defend this.
I don't know. It'll be very dependent on SRG kind of corralling into the real world manipulation. Into the box. Diablo tries to go for an Earth Shatter, a desperate move, and SRG read it. They just space away enough to get away from it. Now, Enhanced Lord marching down. No more surprise initiations from Diablo with a flicker down, and that's going to be the base turret up top taken away.
That's the flicker. Burned here for Diablo, but you're seeing just how patient SRG is trying to play the siege. They're waiting for the mid lane turret, but Yumes, there's the conceal. He'll be coming from the sides. Will this be it?
Spatial migration from Yumes! And Skies capitalizes, electrifying beats, say goodbye to Hades. Diablo very low, onward, backwards. JP with the glorious pathway. The yin-yang reaction is enough to slow him down. Cram just charging. And IP Flash dealing with the waves, and SRG will play it slow. 7,000 gold lead to their name. They'll go for another base turret.
And imagine, they're not even in a position yet where they've been able to deal with all the disruptive plays from Sekai's as well as Yumes. But what more when it comes to the poke that's coming in from Innocent? The Diablo's bursted down just like that! 2 members down for NIP Flash, but Hades will be back in a bit.
Say it like it is, Innocent is godlike. 7-1. JPL is melting to the damage of Skies. He gets stunned up, but there's no follow-up here. NIP Flash can only just turtle in their base at this point. SRG have the range, they have the damage, they have the catch, and they have the poke.
And that range you're talking about? NIP Flash, it doesn't feel like they're able to capitalize on theirs as much. Innocent is currently 7-1-1 on this Granger. And looking at the items, he's already completed all of his items. Doesn't even have the boots. Doesn't even want to go for anything else. Even the Sky Piercer at this point is a huge threat for NIP Flash. He just gets to poke all of the members from afar, and there's beautiful follow-up that can come out. Speaking of that, the Abbot of the Guardian once again!
Electrifying beats in the back, Phoenix evaporating. Yumes getting the spatial migration. Hades soloed out by Yumes. That was JPL falling to Innocent. Sky Piercer, a diversion to the back, a double for Innocent, and the Selangor Red Giants will stomp their way to match point.
Alongside a single minion, SRG ends game number 2 and now holds match point against NIP Flash.
GG, well played.
I cannot believe the patience from SRG. I think that's one of the biggest developments we've seen